There are explosions in Tehran now. Here to respond, Daniel Davis, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, and Eli Kohanim, former deputy envoy under Trump and an Iranian refugee. Lieutenant Colonel, let's start with you. The question Americans want to know tonight, I think, is are they safe, given the fact that we've had a porous border for 4 years under Biden, and obviously this is seen as a proxy war that the United States is helping at least wage against Iran?
Well, honestly, with what we've seen with how the Israeli Mossad operated behind enemy lines inside of Israel, how we saw the Ukrainian side operate behind Russian lines way deep and hit some of their strategic bomber force. I mean, we have to understand, nobody's safe anywhere anymore. It's going to be very, very difficult, and we're going to have to completely change how we view national security, and I'm talking about right here at home. But my primary concern at the moment, anyway, is for our troops in the Middle East and in Syria and in Iraq and in Jordan, because they are very, very vulnerable here. And that's why I've been arguing, I think, on your show several times in the past, that we need to get those troops out of there so that they're not basically pawns that can be attacked by Iran in cases like this. And I hope President Trump will do that pretty soon, because they serve no other useful purpose there.
Eli, I know you fled Iran years ago, but you still talk to a lot of people in the region and in the country. What's your sense about how the people feel about this tonight?
Laura, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I get contacted by Iranians on social media all the time, and you might be surprised to know that the Iranians have actually been begging for the United States, for Israel, to hold the regime accountable, to in fact strike military sites like the Israelis have, because the Iranian people for the last 46 years since the 1979 revolution have been the greatest victims of this regime. And so I think they're quite relieved right now to see that perhaps their liberation day is coming. Certainly what we've seen with this Israeli attack is that the Middle East is now a different place. I've been saying that this is a historic attack because for 46 years this regime has been the cause of destabilization in the region. They have also, let's not forget, the Iranian regime has attacked American troops, American assets. They call for the death of America relentlessly. And so this Israeli attack, I think, is finally the opportunity to see the region go in a different direction, where once this conflict is resolved, I am optimistic that we're going to see under President Trump's leadership the continuation of the Abraham Accords. You'll see Iran contained, and you're going to see Israel, the Sunni Gulf Arab states, in partnership under American leadership. That's my prediction of where this war ends.
Well, we have a long way to go before we would get to that, but there are so many good people for sure in Iran who actually want to live in freedom. But I think the question that Lieutenant Colonel Davis has raised, which is important, is that, you know, in 1983 we had 242 U.S. Marines murdered in Lebanon, in Beirut. And what did Ronald Reagan do when that happened, Lieutenant Colonel Davis?
He withdrew them, and he took a lot of heat for that, but that proved to be the absolute right thing to do, because our security was not negatively impacted in the least all the way for the next decade or so. There was no negative impact at all, except that our vulnerability went way down, and our national security got actually stronger. And that's the model that I'd love to see us follow right now. There's no good in having a lot of troops out there if they're not doing anything for us. We should not risk our troops' lives on just presence or something like that. That's not a good use and not a risk for our lives.
Well, it's a different world for sure, but Americans are also very wary of the U.S. and getting directly involved in another military conflict. As we see Israel try to defend itself from now these incoming attacks and the counterstrikes coming, we anticipate later on in the evening. Colonel and Eli, thank you both very much.